Hello and welcome to the Nerdy Brit channel. Hello, nice to see you. So if you didn't know, and you should because has Multiverse of Madness in the title, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is coming out, and it's coming out in May. You see, with all that multiverse goodness, that only means one thing: cameos. I mean, even recently there were a lot of reports that they were doing heavy reshoots on Doctor Strange specifically to add more cameos. So I thought what we'd do is we would sit down and have a look at every single character who could possibly appear in Multiverse of Madness. I mean, probably not every character, I'm probably going to miss like 100 names, but, you know, be a bit of fun. So, I split this up into some very particular categories. Category 1. Characters we already know from the MCU. Woo! So in the trailers already, we've already seen Doctor Strange, we've already seen Scarlet Witch, we've already seen Wong, we've already seen Mordo. We saw Christine Palmer in the trailer. I think we also saw America Chavez. She's gonna be in the film. She's gonna be in the film. We saw her in the trailer. We also saw Evil Doctor Strange, or Strange Supreme, or the Doctor Strange from What If. Take your pick. So let's have a look at some other characters that we've seen in the MCU before and therefore could show up. I think in terms of the WandaVision cast, we've got some quite likely candidates. I think Vision could show up. I think Agatha Harkness could show up. I think Billy and Tommy could almost definitely show up here. You know, it's not impossible for us to, see Zendaya, see Ned, or any Spider-Man character just because that's kind of involved in the multiverse saga is a possibility. All I want to see is the goddamn rent guy. All I want to see.
Give me rent.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
Give me rent.
I also think Loki, the show, kind of had, like a big part of, some of the multiverse elements. That means we could see Loki, we could see Sylvie. I think Kang is a big possibility. Basically, if they were in the cast of Loki, they could very well be here. I think it's also important to talk about what if candidates. However awful that goddamn series was. Because obviously, Doctor Strange, Evil Doctor Strange, that's very likely the what if version that we're seeing in Doctor Strange 2. Who else could show up? I think Captain Carter is a very big possibility. I just think Hayley Atwell likes coming back to the role and it seems like something she'd do. And again, any character really from What If can kind of come back. I wouldn't really be surprised to see some form of variant Ultron or something like that, just like What If did. I mean, this category is the hardest because I genuinely feel like in a film like this, any character we've seen before has the possibility to show up. Those are just the ones that are most likely from the current MCU. So let's move on to the next category. MCU variants. At this point, it seems incredibly likely that variants are coming to the MCU. And one of the fun things that have been suggested is previous choices that, could have gained the role are going to be playing the role in the Multiverse of Madness. I think the big famous one is obviously Tom Cruise Iron Man. John Krasinski has an option of 2 here because obviously he was in the running to play Captain America, but obviously people want him to be Mr. Fantastic. Also, Emily Blunt is also one that has 2 because she was in the running for Black Widow, but she could also be Sue Storm. One rumour that I do think is quite fun is Tom Hiddleston, but as Thor. Again, I really don't think it'll happen, but you never know. Again, those are the most famous examples. I could list off 100,000. But, those are the famous examples. Let's move on. Category 3, the X-Men. I think this film could pick 2 routes or use both routes with the X-Men in this film. Because obviously, we have a lot of X-Men characters that have previously, been cast and done films. And in the MCU, eventually we are going to want to get to the X-Men. So this film could have a new cast of X-Men, a new Professor X, a new Magneto, a new Mystique, and so forth. Or it could bring back the old X-Men, in terms of for the new timeline or for cameos, who knows. Or it could do both, have some cameos with old X-Men and set up the X-Men within the MCU. In terms of big X-Men cameos, I wouldn't be surprised to see Patrick Stewart or James McAvoy as Charles Xavier, Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I think, Mystique can come back, Beast can come back, goddamn Jubilee can come back. I mean, the big one here is that everyone will want Hugh Jackman as Wolverine to come back, and good. I think that's fantastic. I'd love him to come back, even if it's just for 5 minutes, please. God damn it, please give me Hugh Jackman in the MCU in some form. I do think it's very, very likely we'll get some X-Men cameos from other universes, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we just get the X-Men characters in the MCU in terms of they use Multiverse of Madness to get these characters into the MCU. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, let's finally move on to Category 4. Other MCU characters. There have been a lot of Marvel films that are not connected to the MCU, and therefore there are a lot of possibilities for cameos. We've had 2 iterations of the Fantastic Four, so any of those characters could show up. I'm not actually betting that either of them do, because in one iteration, Chris Evans is involved. I know I mentioned the Tom Hiddleston Thor thing, but I'd be surprised if they went that route, and I'd be surprised if Chris Evans wants to do it, and then the other Fantastic Four was just bad. So again, I'd be surprised if we get Fantastic Four cameos, unless it's things like John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, Emily Blunt, that sort of thing. I think Wesley Snipes as Blade is a very big possibility. Ben Affleck as Daredevil is a possibility. I think Nick Cage as Ghost Rider is a possibility. I mean, even recasts with given enough money could be convinced to come back. You know, Terrence Howard could be convinced to come back as Rhodey in one way or another. Edward Norton could be convinced to come back, along with, you know, Eric Banner, that sort of thing, create a little Hulk universe. Basically, what I'm telling you is there's been a lot of previous Marvel films, and any of those characters could come back. And finally, we have Category 5. I don't have a name for this category, so I'm just going to call it Category 5. Category. Now this is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, so we're going to be just getting some surprises and some weirdness. Everyone's been talking about, you know, Mephisto and Nightmare, you know, those types of characters, and they are a possibility. You know, TV show cameos are a possibility. You never know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. could pop in here for a little cameo, maybe. I think this film's a bit mental, and I think there's going to be a lot of weirdness, a lot of surprises, and I don't really think you can take much for granted in terms of who could or couldn't appear, because they're not going to fit all of these in, but I reckon they're going to try and fit quite a lot of them in. What of the 5,000 names have I missed? Let me know in the comments below. Other than that, enjoy, and I'll see you later.